All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is part 3 of my Bike Across America slideshow that I've done in many libraries and other public places, and I'm just doing it by video. All right, so I talked about doing a not too shabby at the Texas-New Mexico state line, and I was so loud that the neighbor came running out because they thought something was wrong. And now the next slide. All right, so it was my third trip, 2017, and this was I was in Lordsburg, New Mexico, and do you see that huge arrow? That was the weather forecast, and it was saying that by midday it was going to be a 27 to 30 mile an hour tailwind. So I was all excited. There's a story here, and it's a troubling story, but then it has a happy ending. So I'm all excited. I'm going to go from Lordsburg to Deming. I get a flat tire about 10 miles east of Lordsburg. And the problem was I pulled out my pump and my pump was broken. So I already had put the tube in my tire and my pump was broken. And I didn't have another pump. I didn't have those, those CO2 cartridges, whatever you call them. So I had to hitchhike. So there I am on I-10. At first, I just looked right at oncoming traffic and I just held out my thumb. And I did that for about a minute or two. And about 15 to 20 cars just went flying by me. And a whole bunch of them looked at me like they gave me eye contact. And they kept going. So I was so humiliated. It was so hard. So I just said, forget about it. I'm just going to walk ahead. And I thought there was some kind of travel plaza, maybe about 7 miles ahead. So I just walked and I had my bicycle on the left and I had what did I have? Oh no, I had my thumb out on the left and I had my bicycle on the right. And I just walked assertively. And I totally looked like a cyclist. I had my helmet, it was just obvious I was stranded. I walked for over an hour. It was a little over an hour before someone pulled over. And, I had some cash. It would have been no big deal. There were a whole bunch of pickup trucks where I was willing to give $20, $40, to just let me throw my bike into someone's pickup because everyone's going to Deming, or at least driving through Deming. And then from there, I could go to a Walmart, buy a pump, and there was a small bike shop in Deming as well. Anyway, I walked for over an hour, and I made a video on YouTube about it too. So anyway, the hero of the day is this guy right here. His name was Junior. He's really nice guy. He was really modest. I know he probably doesn't even want me to make a big deal about him, but he said his name was Junior. He was driving from Arizona back to Texas. He lived in the Houston area. He said his father had just died and he went to his dad's funeral. He was driving back and he had a car rental. The crazy thing is you can see there were Florida plates. And I was like, hey, I'm headed to Florida too. On that trip, I was headed to Canaveral National Seashore. So anyway, he drove me to this bicycle shop and they took care of me. So that was a crazy... And then here's the wild thing. From Deming, then I paid a taxi, an airport shuttle, to drive me back to where the flat was. And then for the afternoon, I biked back to Deming because I don't cheat. So I made up all those miles. But anyway, thanks to Junior. He kind of keeps in touch with me on Facebook sometimes, so that's really neat. All right, so just some other fun. These are all just fun stories. On my third trip in 2017, I was in West Texas. I had a really hard day. It was cold. There was a crosswind. And my good friend Glenda and her husband Sean have hosted me. And she was like, if you need help, you call or text me. And I definitely get out of work at 3. But you just let me know Well, anyway, after work, I told her I wasn't going to make it to Big Spring, Texas. She met me on the road outside of Lenora, Texas, this tiny little town, and it was just all farms and wind. It was just wild. So it's so amazing just to have friends meet you on the road. So thank you, Glenda. So for my third trip, I definitely use social media a lot more to just post pictures, and people were following me. I actually had 11 people ride alongside with me. Now, for the most part, I was alone. There were so many days where I was alone. But, John biked with me from the Pacific Ocean to Western Arizona for 5 days. Dave Bridges biked with me for 1 day. Coleman and his students, Wid. And then on the last day, Jay Hughes, Bill Rogan. And then on the very last day, Jeb in Florida. He rode for 15 miles with me. So that was really neat. We crashed at the beach. So really rewarding. And then these two guys were the guys at the bicycle trail in San Diego. They just rode with us for about 4 or 5 miles. And so really neat memories. The strangers you meet. That's the beauty about biking across America, is all the strangers you meet, the friends you make. This guy was like a young guy, maybe about 20, 21. He was from Germany. He was German. He started in Miami. He was biking to Los Angeles, and I met him in New Mexico. We had a really good talk. These two guys were hanging out in Duncan, Arizona, and I think that the guy on the right was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He had a beer. So, at first I was like, is he looking for trouble? It turned out he was just looking for a conversation. And I made a really good video with these two guys. And it's really actually sad because this gentleman, I believe his name was Mike. I think his daughter-in-law posted and said he recently died. And she was really thankful for the video. Their names were Bucky and Mike. And we just had a fun video for about 5 or 6 minutes talking about life. And anyway, this is a woman in Mississippi. And this gentleman here was once the mayor of Quartzsite, Arizona. And we were talking in the McDonald's. So it's so neat. Just the random people you meet and the friendships, just the fun conversations. It's really rewarding. It's just wonderful. All right, here's kind of a crazy story. In Mississippi, look, Mississippi, this is, all right. I biked on a highway that had very little shoulder throughout most of Mississippi. For about 220 miles or so, the style of highway was just like this. 2 lanes going, it was 2 lanes on each side. And there was a rumble strip right on the white line. And there wasn't a lot of pavement. So it really wasn't good to bike on that little slither because you either hit the rumble strip sometimes or you get on this patch of dirt and gravel. So I would usually stay just left of the rumble strip. Now, fortunately, a lot of Mississippi was rural. I had my side view mirror and there weren't a lot of cars. And if there was ever a grouping of cars, all coming together, then sometimes I would hit the right. But usually I could kind of see cars going to going around me safely. Well, anyway, here's the story. So I'm in No. I was in Collins, Mississippi, and I'm biking to Hattiesburg. It's only about 15, 20 miles. I don't know what was going on with that highway. It was like 9:30 in the morning. It was like Chicago or New York City with all the traffic. There were so many cars flying by in both lanes. And I was in the little right rumble strip thing. And I was so stressed out. It was the only time on the trip where I was really kind of scared. And then I had a bunch of people honking their horns at me. In Mississippi, they're not used to seeing bicyclists. So sometimes they would honk their horn more. And anyway, so here's the story. I finally reach the edges of Hattiesburg, and there's a wide shoulder that opens up. So I'm like breathing a sigh of relief, like, okay, it's going to be better. And there's a guy in a pickup truck. He's standing outside his pickup truck. And I can, he's looking at me like I can tell he wants to talk to me. So I'm thinking, oh no, he's going to lecture me about how I shouldn't be on the roads and what are you doing? You could get killed, blah, blah, blah. Bicycle, you shouldn't be on this highway. So I'm getting all defensive, thinking, all right, what's going to happen? Like, what is he going to say? And I'm already thinking about how I'm going to react to him. It turned out it's this guy named Dr. Folks. He's a retired professor at the University of Mississippi. Nicest guy. He didn't have anything negative to say to me. In fact, he said, there's a restaurant outside of Hattiesburg where if you just say Dr. Folks sent me, they'll give you a free meal. And I think the owners were relatives of him. Just this really nice guy. So we had a really good talk. And anyway, that's Mississippi. They're arguably some of the nicest people. Like, they really are. They're so kind. They'll do anything for you. Yet at the same time, I was honked at more than in any state. So it's sort of this dichotomy. But anyway, just a nice story. Dr. Folks, I hope you're doing well. I met a guy who was unicycling across America. That was pretty amazing. We had a really good talk, and the short story is he started in California at the beach, and he got to a town called Superior, Arizona. It's about 25, 30 miles east of Phoenix. And he actually quit right there. I kind of actually played a role in listening to him and counseling him. And he decided to quit. But we had a good talk. And he said that it wasn't that much fun. He had done some long distance unicycling. But he said that too many people were saying just things like, hey, did you escape from the circus? And everyone was just looking at him, and he didn't like that. So, and he was camping, and he carried all his stuff just in the back there. So I think he was camping. I met this guy. This was on my second trip in 2011. He was walking across America, and he was retired, and he was a runner. So sometimes he would run, sometimes he would walk, and he would camp. And it's common for people who walk across America to push a stroller, and they carry everything in the stroller. Well, it turns out somebody called the cops on him, because they thought there was a baby inside. So the cop was like, hey, can I just make sure you don't have a baby? So that was just kind of funny. So the funny thing was I met him in Western Arizona, and then it was like another 6 weeks before I got to the ocean. And he gave me his blog, his web address. So by the time I got back home, he was in Missouri, I think. And I followed him for another 4 or 5 weeks before he got to Virginia. So that was neat. Here's a neat story. On my first trip in 2008, this was the bridge over the Mississippi River. Just a 2-lane, 1 lane for each direction. And I didn't have much shoulder. And I remember getting on this ledge and looking down at the river. And but there's a story from this day. So I'm biking through the Mississippi Delta. I went through Greenville, Indianola. I got to Greenwood. On this day, I had 4 flat tires. And it was like I'd bike 10 miles, I'd get a flat tire. I'd go another 10 miles, I'd get another flat tire. I went 5 miles. I went 20 more miles, I got 4 flats. So I was really dejected. I mean, I was kind of just demoralized. And I was getting near the end of my ride. And I wanted, this is when I was a little faster and younger. I wanted to ride 100 miles that day. And I only got 65 miles in. Now, I still know 65 is still a good number, but I was disappointed. I just remember I was a little bit man, what's going on with these roads in Mississippi? So I'm at this convenience store. I'm only a few miles away from Greenwood. And there's this guy behind. I was inside the convenience store in line. And this guy behind me, I got a picture of him. He said, "Are you still biking?" And I turned around and I'm like, yeah. He said, "I have been all morning like my job, I have a delivery truck, and I've been driving all over on Highway 82. And I kept seeing you every half hour, every hour. Like I saw you in Indianola, I saw you here, and then like 2 hours later, I passed you again. And he just said, dude, you're hardcore, you know? So I gave him a hug, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm all sweaty. So he was such a nice guy. And I had to get a picture of him. So, and this is the Shell station right across from Mississippi Valley State in Itta-Bena, Mississippi. So, and for a little while, I don't know if I kept in touch with him or one or two of his friends through social media. But anyway, that's just an amazing story. So he really encouraged me on a day when I needed it. So here's an example of a highway or just a road, a little 2-lane, where there's just no shoulder in Alabama. So in the southern states, there's just a lot of roads that do not have shoulder. And I'm going to be, in my 4th trip, I'm going to be going a little more north through Missouri and then the Midwest. So maybe the roads will be better in the Midwest. The people you meet. This is a girl on my 3rd trip. I was in Campty, Louisiana. This woman just went crazy when I told her that I biked from San Diego to her little town in Louisiana. She was going crazy and just telling everyone, everyone in the little convenience store. She was just like, this guy biked from California. So I had to get a picture with her. So just makes my day. Here are the 3 photos of the end of my trip. There's trip 1, trip 2, and then trip 3. So, and I'm kind of, you might not be able to see it, but I'm holding 2 fingers up and then 3 fingers up. So we're getting near the end here. So by the way, I have written a book. This is my encouragement. This is what I tell my audience. I encourage you to write your own book. Write the book you want to read. Just start with that. Start with a book that you've always wanted to read and write it. I really want to encourage you. You don't have to be a Harvard graduate or like a journalist for some newspaper. And here, I'm going to just show you my, I know the light's kind of bad in here right now, but here's my book. I just want to encourage you. Oops. If you've ever dreamed about writing a book, like Biking Across America was my big dream, and now I've done it 3 times. But another dream that I've always had was to write a book, and I actually did it. You know what? And if you're not a good writer, you don't think you're smart enough, you don't think you're disciplined enough, okay, I totally get it. But I want to encourage you. There's something called help. H-E-L-P, help. Get people to help you. I had editors help me. I had beta readers. I had really good friends that love reading, give me tough feedback about my book. I paid a graphic designer to make this nice red cover. So I just want to encourage you. You can write a book. All right, so that's my little spiel. And there's my book. I'll put an address to my Amazon link if you want to read my book in print form or in Kindle format. So, all right. So write the book you want to read. Let's see. I think that's it. Okay, and then here's just my little spiel where at the very end I say, you can buy a signed copy of my book for $15. So, really though, thank you for watching my slideshow. It's a lot of fun. It's more fun when I do it and there's an audience and then people are laughing and going, carrying on. So, remember, if we wait until we're ready, we'll be waiting for the rest of our lives. You're never 100% ready for anything. Sometimes you just have to go for it. So there's my buddy Phil. All right. And then, so this is my whole slideshow. Thank you so much for watching. And have a good night. Thank you.